I've got a sample ballot that I printed up. I can't show you this. You can find, it's a sample ballot that you can find on the Jefferson County clerk's website. And I printed this out and I looked through it, and I had no idea who any of these people are, except for a few who had advertised on TV. And that's what I think is really the problem, that we're given choices. It's rather, for me, it's rather like going into a restaurant and they say, you know, would you like the ribs or the chicken? And I, well, I don't want either of those. You know, you got anything else? No, it's a binary choice. You got to pick. And so and even in the primary election, I'm picking between maybe somebody who has some name recognition and somebody who doesn't. So here's my idea. I've gone through my address book and I've picked out 50 names. All of you will be included. Stan, I didn't include you in this because this is a local election, but right. All of you will be included in this. And on the 10th of May, which is 1 week before the primary, I'm going to do this in a Zoom meeting so that all anybody has to do is log in, take the poll, and then they'll see the results. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's for me, it means I know how my friends are voting. If you tell me right now, Steve, that you're going to vote for Melissa Bellows for the 30th Circuit Court, and you have some good reason for that, she's got my vote too. I have no idea. I trust you. If you say somebody is worth getting my vote, and I have no reason for voting for anyone else, then I'll take your word for it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're telling me how to vote. That means you're giving an endorsement to someone, and you're someone I trust. So if I have no clear path otherwise, that's the way I'm going to do it. I don't know that this will. Right now, it's kind of a selfish thing, I guess, because I'm focusing on. I don't vote in this, by the way. I don't get to I don't get to put a vote in. So I'm asking for people's opinions. But I think the secondary purpose is, before you walk into the voting booth on primary day, you ought to at least have looked at the names. Sure. You ought to at least have given some thought to who you're voting for. And, if you have a real strong reason, you can express that to people. So anyway, that's it. Give me some comments on this. What do you think?
One comment that I have would be, if you are serious that you're going to be looking at what your friends have to say about these candidates, you ought to leave an option on the polling. I don't know, we didn't test that. Can you leave it blank? Like, I don't know any more than anybody else about these choices. So I don't want to express an opinion just in a poll, a week before election. I still have a week to try to get more information. Right. But as of the 10th, I might not, in any one of those races, I might not be able to really make an informed choice. So it would be
add an option for none of the above or undecided.
Well, or just skipping that one, submitting without making an answer. I don't know if that's possible with your.
Well, the fact that I like that idea, but I think it might be best if I add an option that says undecided. So I know how many people have not decided about it. Now, this is an anonymous poll, so I don't go back and look at who said what. It's just the aggregate number.
Yeah, but you'd like to know that somebody's actually giving you some information as opposed to just randomly guessing.
Exactly. Yeah, Dave, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to make two comments. One is, I think the powers that be, meaning those who run the elections and publish the names, et cetera, have done an especially lousy job this year. There's a new census, which is gerrymandering us into a different district.
Right.
There's been everywhere, I get the Courier Journal every day. They've been surprisingly mum on candidates, although there have been a couple, three articles that have helped me. I've seen nothing on television. It's mostly ads popping up now, particularly Morgan McGarvey. He's all over the place because he's got a lot of money. but all that given, it's even a matter of not knowing where I go to vote, because even that has been shifted around. Okay, that's one aspect of what I wanted to say. The other is, I think it would be really valuable if we shared a little bit of what we know today with the group. Why, as you said, why I would tell you why I've selected a particular candidate.
Mhm.
And if we shared that, that might, I think that would be really useful.
Yeah. Well,
To
that
me,
would, yeah, that may be something Stan might not benefit from because he's
Well,
not.
I would
Yeah,
graciously
sorry,
excuse
Stan,
myself, but if you guys want to do that, that's fine.
No, Dave, I think that was a good follow-up for what I'd like to do on the 10th, when we have, if there's a particular, what I'm interested in knowing is from you particularly, if there is a candidate that you highly endorse, I'd like to know that. And if there's somebody you think is such a stinker, I should never vote for him, I'd like to know that too. So I would really like to have a further discussion, but if you give everybody a chance to do that, the meeting goes so long. I'm talking about 50 people in something like this. That might not work, but I would love to hear from you about candidates that you love.
Well, on the other hand, Michael, there's, it's the major candidates now. I wouldn't even bring up who the Metro Council members are, because that's so specific in different districts. I don't know if either of you or any of you are in D4 downtown or D9. D9 is an election, but I'm thinking of the mayoral race, the ones you had on the first list. Those
Right.
are crucial. Those are crucial jobs. A judgeship's a kind of a toss-up, I mean, for instance, I get my information on judges from, there's a association of the Bar Association of Greater Louisville, Jefferson County. They always put out top to bottom candidates. And I rely on that pretty heavily because I'm not in court. I don't know what it's like, but I value the attorneys who are both prosecutors and defense attorneys and what they know. The other is I've come across information from candidates that I really like. Tina Ward Pugh, I have a long, close connection with, but those are important races, and and there's where the sharing might be most useful. That's it. Okay.
Well, I also am looking for other guidance. This is something from, I can't show these very well, but this is a voter guide for Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, and they talk about basically the Senate and House races and so forth. So I agree that there's some offices that are more important than others, but in the race for Metro Council member, Andrew Owen is running against Jim Mims. Now, Andrew Owen is Tom Owen's son, and so he probably has more name recognition than anyone else. But Jim Mims is a very strong candidate also. I'd like to hear more about them. So I'm going to a meeting down at Clifton Center tomorrow night where all these candidates are going to be.
Good. Yeah, we're sponsoring that, Mike. So please come, any of you who live in the district.
Okay, but I can't get to all these meetings. So I'd like to know from my friends, you've been there, you've seen this, you've made a decision. Okay. I mean, honestly, I do the same thing with lawyers. I ask the lawyers who the judges should be. And unless I have a reason to contradict it, I'll just let them tell me who to vote for.
Right.
You just trust them on that. Paul, did you have any thoughts on this?
Well, that used to be the case for me and with the men's group. You may remember, Michael, that Dennis Bricking, director of legal aid, every year would come around and go, okay, here's our list of candidates.
Right. I followed his advice.
Okay, cool.
And I followed his advice every year.
That was me. I was like, okay, he knows more than anybody. Now, there are those here who might be good judges. And I won't mention any names, but who, people don't like. You got to deal with. I think you have to deal with the judgeships, regardless of the personality. You need to find somebody who the lawyers say, yep, these guys do the job.
Yeah.
And you don't have any lunatic judges running. We had some. So that's basically my,
Yeah.
You run into them.
You have to watch out. A lawyer friend of mine, this is secondhand information, but another friend of mine told me he talked to Steve Mershon, who used to be a judge, circuit court judge here. And Steve said, I looked at the ballot and I don't know any of those people. So it's you know, it doesn't take much. You put your name up, you file, and you run for the office. And, you know, hell, I've thought many times I could put my name up there and win some office. But anyway, Dave, you had something else?
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is, yeah, the judgeships are like that. You look for people who know, maybe, because we don't know them. But the really important races, like Charles Booker versus Rand Paul, or today's newspaper, the Sunday Courier, has a deep look at Morgan McGarvey versus Atticus Scott. That's to replace John Yarmouth, who is the only Democratic national legislative figure that this state has left, Senate or House. Those are important races, and that's where, you know, I think deeper dives are good. Also, also those other major races, county attorney, maybe, you know, I don't know, but certainly Bobby Holsclaw, the clerk of not clerk of court, but clerk
county
clerk. Yeah. They are that office. I didn't realize until Tina told me, also governs the placement of voting locations, controls that. Tina told me Bobby Holsclaw, whom I usually vote for, does a good job. She agreed with it. She does a very good job of running that license plate and you know, titles and all that. She said, I entered the race because she, as a Republican, is slowly gerrymandering or closing or adjusting polling places to block, especially South and West End, poor people's easy way to get to polls. She said, that's why I'm in this race. And I think it's important to know that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've felt the same. I wondered why Tina was running for that, because
yes, that's exactly why. And I said, why don't you advertise that more heavily?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if she is. She's running, you know, she doesn't have a lot of money. I'm sending her a little. Yeah. The other guy is a guy named, I think, Blakemore. He said the same thing. He's one of the Democrats. Blakemore, running against Tina.
There's a lot of advertising.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Stan, I'm curious, you know, that while this particular discussion of these candidates doesn't affect you, you just moved to a new city. Are you voting will you be voting in Atlanta this year?
Yeah, we had a local election last spring, and I was able to vote in that. And
how'd you go about through this process? What influenced
you? You know, I was new to the area. I'm in an area where we were just walking, and there was a guy that was running, and he had a little thing going in his front yard. So I started talking to him about stuff. And there was another woman who used to be who was the president of the city council that lived across the street from him anyway. But I know Emily volunteered to work for the polls. That's a great way to get some insight into how things work or don't work, et cetera. But anyway, the thing that, how does it work here? Well, the school, it's a local school about 2 blocks away. There is information, you know, there's information online. There's information in local newspapers about the candidates, et cetera. They send out mailings that give you profiles. So there's plenty of places to find information about who's running. A lot of people have put up yard signs here, so it's pretty, you know, politically active area as far as I can see. Although a local election, you know, off-year election, you know, you're lucky if you get 15-20% turnout. So very few people are deciding the fate of what's happening in their community.
Yeah.
And some of it might be because there is so many obscure offices that are being contested for, and people maybe what difference does it make who's dog catcher, or whatever. But I was surprised when I went. I didn't expect this, but when I went to the poll, a thing that surprised me. Well, they have a neat on computer system where you make your choices. Then they give you a printout, and then the printout is deposited in a ballot box. And so that's a very convenient way of doing things. I remember in Needham, you had to fill in circles with a black marker, and of course, inevitably somebody's going to do that wrong, and the ballot is. But anyway, this works. And but when it came to there was a bunch of judges and various legal offices. I didn't even know they were being contested. And basically, I'm trying to remember. It was a weird way they put it. This was like more than a year ago, but it was something like, a person's name would appear there, and you're only asked if you have a reason to think that this person shouldn't continue in office, hit this spot.
I like
like
that. The ejection button. Yeah.
Good news is everyone voted, but no one wants you in office anymore.
Right.
I don't know what happens then, because I didn't see alternative candidates. I don't know. It was very confusing.
No.
Weird.
Well, one of the things that's been in the news the last several years, and I don't think Donald Trump instituted this, but it's something that the Republican Party has been pretty effective in, is they've targeted these small elections. They've gone after the school board elections and maybe the dog catcher too. And what they do is, as you were saying, and sometimes if the vote turnout is low, you can win a local election with 100 votes.
Yeah.
You don't have to have major money and TV ads. You just get a hardcore group of people to come in and vote for something, and you can make it happen. And then the number of offices in a particular party's hands has an overall influence on the community. Who's running the community.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Dave, about Bobby Holzclaw, I have voted for her in the past because I think she reformed that office quite nicely. But you just enlighten me on if that's the case, and I'll investigate that further. By the way, I'm not simply going to take your word for it. I trust you, but I'm going to verify it in some other way. And that if it's a choice other than her, then is Tina the right one for this job? I mean, I know her. I think she probably would be, but I don't know Neville Blakemore, so I need to hear more. But my point is, Democrats don't seem to be really enthusiastic about these small races. They say, who cares? Well, it's going to matter. And so anyway, any other thoughts on that topic? So anyway, on the 10th of May, before the 10th of May, I'll be sending out a notice about a Zoom meeting where I'm going to explain this. Then I have about 50 people listed. I hope I can get 20 out of the 50 to participate, and I hope you will. It's going to be a very brief thing, basically come in and take the poll, see the results, and then I'll stay on after that for any discussion. Dave, like you were mentioning before, I don't want to take a group of 50 and make them all stay for discussion. So we'll have the polls, and then after that, if you want to stay and chat about that, I'll have the opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Could I offer just one really short recommendation?
Sure.
I've been doing a lot of polling in our Clifton Heights neighborhood, not polling so much as getting word out that there is that Clifton Center meeting tomorrow night. I don't know how you found about it. I thought about emailing you. I wasn't even sure that you were in the 9th district. But there's a sheriff running against the ancient Colonel Aubrey, who's been there forever. And it's a black guy who is, I first saw the signs around our little black community here in the midst of Clifton Heights, it centers around, it's called the Mount Nebo neighborhood. It centers around Mount Nebo Baptist Church. It's, before the turn of the century, there was a black community in here.
Right.
And they're still there, centered around that church. Well, Yancey, Stephen Yancey, I was told by a deputy sheriff who's basically grew up in that neighborhood, very conservative Democrat, a typical resident of not a white collar progressive in that sense. But he and his wife, because he worked with this guy Yancey, the only black guy in the sheriff's department, he was insulted, demeaned, just practically brutalized by the fellow deputies in there, just cruel. And he took it stoically, but he began to push back, and he did it in very gentle ways, and finally confronted, I don't know if it was a lawsuit or what, to say that's got to stop. He made several white friends in there, and now this guy named Jones says, Yancey is one of my best friends. And he said, that's why I'm resisting my boss, Aubrey, daring to put signs out and spread the word that Yancey is not only a really smart guy, but he deserves this thing. Now, take that as you want, but I'd say take a look at Yancey.
Yeah, that's the kind of anecdotal thing I'd love to hear about. It's hard to get that for him. So if after we do this vote, if you speak up for him, that's fine. The problem, I think, and one of the reasons why we have the situation we have now is that people have a short attention span, and they don't want to listen to a lot of speeches and a lot of policy positions and so forth. They want to, who's there? Let me pick one, Coke or Pepsi, doesn't matter. And so I think it's important to keep things terse, to say, I support this person, and I would base my judgment on how I trust you, as opposed to what kind of evidence you present. If you understand what I mean, if you say this guy is worthy of my vote, I have no reason to vote for John Aubrey. I don't know. So if you say that Yancey is a good guy, well, as of now, he has my vote unless I find out something otherwise. You see how that works? I mean, I think it's pretty simple, but it's a bottom-up approach. And I don't want to belabor this point, but maybe at some time in the future we can talk about it. But I've always felt that the problem in our political system is we have a binary choice. And one of the things I would like to do is start my own political party, because if you start your own political party, you can have a group of people who express an opinion, and people have to listen to you. I think our problem is not the two-party system. We need thousands of parties of interested citizens who promote different ideas. Now, in the end, as this boils down, it may come down to one of two candidates. But in the beginning of the process, I'd love to see a spirited debate about the office of sheriff, not so much because of the importance of the office, but because of the importance of citizen involvement in the selection of the office. You got to, you have to have some kind of public expression. I wish we had caucuses. I would love to go to the gym and sit with the people that I agree with. I think that's great. But at any rate, I've wandered on longer than I intended to with this, but this has been interesting. Anything else that's on your mind? I don't want to flood the table here. Stan, I did want to follow up with something from last week. I don't know whether you've made any progress in the situation. Last week, Dave, we were talking, or Steve, we were talking about conflicts and conflict resolution with people with whom we disagreed. Anything new there?
No, I haven't acted on my thoughts as to whether or not to confront my brother-in-law with this particular thing. I've thought a lot about controversy around the use of the N word, and it's but and I thought a lot about how racial attitudes are we're conditioned with them because of the environment we grow up in and because of the media, et cetera. There's constant reinforcement of certain images of people, specifically black and white, but also other Jewish, Arab, whatever, and it's the only way you can escape that constant, let's say, environmental bombardment is to be hyper conscious and aware every time you, because there's so much coming at you, and there's so much that you grow up with, that is just embedded in the way your brain is wired, and it takes a lot of effort to cleanse that mess in your head.
Yeah.
It's like I said, the environment I'm in is great because I'm day to day, I'm interacting with more and more Black people, and so it helps me see Black people as a concrete reality that I experience every day, and not as a mediated reality that you would see through the media or as a abstraction. Yeah. And I think with time, that's going to make a huge difference in the way I respond consciously and unconsciously to racial differences and things. I'm grateful that I am where I am. I don't know if y'all know, but I'm in a neighborhood. I'm in the minority. This neighborhood is 60% Black and 40% white. Now, that's not to say that all my neighbors are Black, because I look around me and most of the houses are owned by white people. There's a few Black families, up and down the street. But still, you go sometimes I go to a drugstore or a grocery store. I'm only a white person there, so that's an interesting experience. Kind of puts things in perspective.
Yeah. I'll be interested in hearing more about that over the years. How close the relationships.
I admire, Stan, what you're doing there. I wish we had more Black neighbors that I could interact with, because I think that's our job. I think I mentioned it. It's what we need to do is one, as Tina Ward Pugh's, when she was the Metro Council member, one porch at a time. And I think that's the way you do it.
It's kind of tough.
I'll move to Atlanta. I think the entire city's it's about 50-50 white and Black, which is interesting, for a big.
Well, I want to make sure everybody has a chance to clear their heads this week. Paul, I haven't heard much from you today. What's on your mind?
I got a couple of things. And one was how the functioning of the voting procedures or how they come forward in time. With Aubrey's case, the story about that one is that my mother-in-law was married to a fella, Hillary, who was involved in Democratic politics in East Louisville, Clifton Heights. And so at that occasion, it's one of the things that they did. They had meetings. I was helping move stuff around because I was the youngest guy in the place. And, we got to this spot, and then so I met this fella and subsequently have met him a couple of other times. Now, he doesn't remember who I am, but I remember him because, of course, he's a sheriff, right? And so, hey, well, it's my mother-in-law's voice, and so, might as well look at that as much as anything, that's kind of how we would do it. And it would come forward. And that's been 30 years or more since I first dealt with this guy. So it's kind of like, well, this is how Louisville works. You vote for somebody you've known for a very, very long time. And, that's not necessarily a bad thing, unless you're young and you want to get ahead in time, in which case you have to go out and kill people. So that would be me. And so that's how that one is. And the other thing is I have, because I've lately been going with my spouse to the gym. She likes to swim in the morning. I'm not a swimmer in the morning. And so I have been going to the gym because I'm on a workout kick. And it's very interesting because I go in here and it's like about 60-40 black over white in the gyms, and good looking men too. I want to say that, these guys, they're really beefed up, they seem to be pleasant enough. Some of them look a little sour, but mostly the people are, how you doing? Or just nod. Nobody really talks. They just go in and crank. So that's my newest experience with black people. And so I don't, there's no reason to open that particular thing up. I deal with it on a regular basis with my daughter and sons-in-laws and ex-sons-in-laws. And well, he ex-son-in-law was a white guy, sorry. And and their grandsons, one of whom is black, is black is the darkest night, and his brother is absolutely looks like a German. Absolutely as Germanic as you can imagine. So who's black, who's white, what does it mean? I also looked in a paper. I was looking on the old Google. I was thinking about how many African tribes are there. Well, it's either 7,000 or 17,000, or it's 27,000. I mean, it's all different all over the map. And all of these people speak different languages, of which, I sort of know, the Hutu and the Tutsi, those people. We've heard about them back when they went for their big slaughter of each other. And so, if it hasn't occurred to people by now that all of these things are meaningless. Who belongs to what tribe?
Yeah. There are no black people in Africa.
But that's right. But yet we continue to indulge in tribal thinking and tribal. Yeah. I mean, that was the key word after Trump was elected, was tribalism. It was the word of the year or something.
Yeah.
What it says about human nature and our need to quickly and easily identify with who's on our side.
Yeah.
And cling to that. And it's
an unfortunate one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Steve, we haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. Anything on your mind you want to share today? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you
no, nothing special. Thanks.
No. Okay. Well, this is good. I hope you enjoy the week in the Derby. Dave, what you got?
This is for Stan primarily, but I've tuned in, and maybe I said this last time or time before, but the professor at U of L, American Studies, did I tell you about him? He said he wants to move back to Atlanta, he thinks, because they have a chance of conquering things. He says you need a tipping point of enough black people. Yeah, I think I did tell you that. So
no. I remember you mentioning Ricky James. I wrote his name down because I was going to see if
it's Jones. Ricky Jones. He's on a tear today in an editorial. He sets fire to the place. He takes no prisoners, and he says exactly what he thinks.
Wow,
he's such a smart dude. So if you can link into him sometime.
By the way, speaking of, remember that? Did you guys see that news bit about the congresswoman, I think in Ohio, that ripped into this Democrat who ripped into this other woman for using her, characterizing her as someone grooming children for abuse in a fundraising letter.
Michigan. Yeah.
With Michigan. Yeah. We need more people like that speaking out and calling this fraud for what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, she was wonderful. She was. I'm a mother. I'm a Christian.
Yeah, I'm a white Christian.
Just like, I'm not grooming children for child abuse. But she said, I hope you made some money on your letter. But I'm telling you, it was great, wasn't it? Did you hear her speech?
I did. Not.
I did.
If you get a chance, listen to her speech. I said, why can't more people? I mean, she was pushed to it. She was slandered. in this email. And so but she was very eloquent and very convincing, and she didn't say anything I don't think anyone could be offended with.
Yeah.
Well, you are white and a Christian, but you're a Democrat, so I don't know if I can.
Dave, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the one porch at a time notion.
Mhm.
There's another dimension to this, that in our neighborhood, we have a couple of Black families who I, will wave to, but I really don't know. And I've thought from time to time, well, I ought to just go over and, knock on their door and introduce myself and, break the ice. And then I thought, I don't do that with other people who move into the neighborhood. Am I being patronizing to go, I want you to be my Black friend, that kind of thing? How do you get beyond that? I don't want to, I don't want to come off the wrong way. I mean, I would welcome an opportunity. He likes to garden. One of the guys live down here on Richmond likes to garden. And if I'm passing by, he's out in the garden, I always, stop and say, that this is nice or whatever, but he doesn't seem to want to strike up a conversation. So,
Yeah.
Well, I would walk up and introduce myself and say, I see you got a garden. I do too. I'm Mike Wright.
I've done that. I've done that, but it doesn't go any further.
He might be a quiet guy who doesn't, more introverted.
You might not just like me. I mean, a lot of people don't like me. So you don't have to be white to not like me.
Doesn't even know you. You gotta get to know you not to like you. Really.
Mike, here's why I would disagree with your, I don't treat my white neighbors that way. Well, we do in our little neighborhood because, we always approach people who have moved in and say, welcome. You see them in the yard, or you might even go up and knock on the door and say, hey, we want you to know what a wonderful neighborhood, a little neighborhood you've moved into here, and so on.
Yeah.
The problem with Black neighbors and Blacks in general is they don't expect to be looked at twice by whites.
Yeah.
That's you look at them in the store, they're not going to look at you and say hi. You get it occasionally, but they're the underdogs. They move in assuming that this is an uphill battle. And you're the white guy who breaks the ice and says, you're welcome here too. You don't have to make it please be my Black friend. I mean, I know it's all subtle and it's all, but
you would think that
you
greeting,
put out a feeler and maybe later you'll get a second feeler or whatever. Who knows?
No, I just don't want to stalk people. That's all. But damn, you're going to be my friend.
I like stalking people.
Dude, don't leave me alone.
Yeah, will that old white guy stay away from me?
If I was a Black entrepreneur, this is a good business. Rent a Black friend. For one dinner out every week.
Black escort service.
I will be seen with you in public.
I think
you got to look at it from a capitalist perspective,
Perhaps.
That's what made this country great.
Well, anything else on anyone's mind? I think we're about to wrap up today.
I'm impressed with your all's civic engagement.
Well,
very nice.
For Paul and Steve and Dave, I will be sending you out that notice. By the way, your spouses will be included in this, but you'll have to have 2 devices to do separate voting. So if you want to do that, you have to have 2 computers or a computer and a cell phone. You can do this on a smartphone as well. Do the Zoom in case you haven't done that. But your spouses are welcome. And if you know of someone who would like to participate in this, send me their email address and I'll send them out an invitation as well. Or you can you'll get an invitation. You can forward it to whoever you like. Like I said, I'm inviting 50 people, but I expect 20. So we'll see how it goes.
Good luck.
All right. Well,
I've got some people who might join in right here in the neighborhood.
Great. All right. Well, have a good day today and enjoy Derby week. And
yeah,
that's what we should have done, is done a Derby poll. I guess we'll have to do that.
Love to, but I sometimes I have them just for nostalgia's sake. But
All right,
it was nice
take
to go
care.
to a real one in a real Derby state. But anyway, you guys have a great